I can guarantee you this. I will get whatever you need me to get done on time and at the highest quality. Hey, look, I know you're going to use Claude or ChatGPT, and if you aren't, then you probably should be. Sometimes we'll get these like assessments that are fully filled out, but you can tell it's all just AI slop. Here's the discovery call. Go listen to this discovery call. Now, come up with an account plan. They will come back and say, hey, yeah, this is not going to be a 1 month deal. This is going to take 6 months, and here's exactly why, and here's exactly what's going to happen every month. Why manage 8 reps when you can manage 15 or 20 or 30?
Before we dive into our show today, do you struggle to stand out and get prospects or candidates to engage? If you watch regularly, you'll notice that I wear a lot of gear from vendors I love. This is not an accident. Sending unique gifts is one of the most powerful ways I've found to break through. A personalized bobblehead, a cactus, or my personal favorite, a great jacket. Gifting engages prospects, customers, and candidates and builds real relationships. That's why we've partnered with Sendoso, the #1 gifting platform, to send a Whispered branded jacket to every podcast guest. Now, let's get into it. Welcome to Whispered Hiring, the podcast where we talk with senior leaders about how they find, vet, attract, and grow go-to-market talent. I'm Andy Mowat, founder of Whispered. Today, I'm joined by Sriharsha Guduguntla. He also goes by Sai, so I'll call him Sai. Sai, great to have you here.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me, Andy. That was one of the best pronunciations I've heard of my last name, so I got to give it to you.
I'm impressed, man. Nobody ever gets my last name right either as well. It's always Mowat, and mine's pronounced differently. So it's great to have you on, and I'm excited for this. We've got to know each other just within the go-to-market world, given all the innovation that Hyperbound is bringing. Maybe quick intro on your background is you are the founder of Hyperbound. It's kind of was one of the innovators on AI role plays, and I think we've been really enjoying the discussion around like how the role of manager, the role of salesperson is changing, bringing AI. So welcome. I'm excited to have you.
Amazing. Let's get right into it, man. This is one of my favorite topics, and I honestly, running the startup, I think it is the most important thing of all. So I'm very excited to be here.
It is. It is. Everybody always says like, "Hey, hiring great talents is there," but I'm excited to delve into like, what
Mhm.
does that mean to you? How do you do it?
For sure.
Maybe just for folks that don't know Hyperbound, just give a quick journey of like how you guys, because you've been one of these fast growing GTM tech things, but it'd be fun just to have you give just a 1 minute version of like the journey you've been on so far.
Yeah. It's been crazy, man. We've been running the company for a little over 2 years now, so almost 2.5 years. And we started in Y Combinator summer 2023 batch, and we were actually building a completely different product coming into the batch. And most people don't know this, but we actually pivoted between 17 different ideas until we landed on what we're working on today. So it's been a long journey, and it was actually just my co-founder and I for a long time, especially for the first 6 months. It was just us. Actually, not even 6 months. I'd say 8 months. It was us, and then we hired our first engineer. And that was due to just demand. And my co-founder and I, like, we both couldn't be coding every single day, 24/7 anymore. So we ended up bringing in our first engineer. And next thing you know, that it was just the three of us for another like 4 to 5 months. And then we started hiring a ton. And by the time we raised our Series A last September, we were at around 14 people. And now we've grown to around 35 full-time employees and continuing to grow right now. So, yeah, we've been particularly lean until now, but now the market and the product and the customers are starting to demand more of us.
I love it. I mean, I think thank you for taking the time today. The window on a founder like you, right? Like the YC has been hustling, but now it's really starting to figure out product market fit. Is so powerful. How do you think about balancing people that have been there, done that, with hiring young and scrappy? And I think one other thing to highlight for you that I've observed is you're amazing at, maybe if you aren't hiring them, you're finding all these amazing super senior advisors that are helping you out. But I'm curious, like, how do you bring in the pattern recognition and balance that with the scrappiness as well too?
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic question, and that's always the hardest thing to balance when hiring folks,
Yeah.
right? You're trying to find someone that has a history, that has experience putting something together and excelling in the role, but you're also looking for someone that has a fire under their ass, right? They're willing to come in, learn something new, be comfortable with the uncomfortable, right? And so we're always looking for a little bit of both. And it really depends on what we're looking for in the role at the time. I will say about, let's say, like 70% of the time I always look for the fire under the ass more than anything else.
Yeah.
Just because I that you know I that that's my journey, coming into this world is, I'm not a salesperson. I'm not a marketer. I've never I'm a first time founder, and to come in as an engineer and start this company and do everything that I'm doing today, outside of just coding or being an engineer, it's something that I had to learn the hard way. And so I always love to give others a chance to prove that because I think it's more powerful than anything else.
It's been impressive to watch you not being a salesperson and some of the logos and the companies that are world-class logos that Hyperbound's working with. I know we've had some great conversations around that. How do you evaluate the maybe just the fire underneath them? I'll the ass part's fine either way, but
Yeah,
how are you assessing that when you're meeting somebody? And it's probably not just an age thing, although I think, there's obviously a lot of assumptions that, like, age is correlated with
yeah,
hustle. But how are you evaluating that in the interview process?
yeah. I'll be honest, man. I'll be the first to say I don't think age really has any correlation with hustle.
Me too.
Our first engineer was 46. He's a 15-year veteran as an engineer. I might be lying. Hope he doesn't hate me. Maybe even 20 years. But yeah, the point is, age doesn't really matter in my opinion. And yeah, to your point, like how do you actually evaluate that? And you want to evaluate that earlier than later, right? Like the last thing you want to do is go down their entire experience, spend multiple interviews, and at the very end find out that they actually can't do well at a startup. So, one of the things that I like to do, first of all, is really push candidates in that first behavioral interview.
Mhm.
I like to ask them, well, first of all, I like to paint the picture for them, like about what they're about to get into. Like, look,
Mm.
this is not your typical 40-hour a week role, This is gonna take a lot more work than that. You're gonna have to work sometimes on the weekends. You're gonna have to travel a lot. You're gonna have to make sacrifices. And I keep it simple, right? I basically give them an opt-out. I'm like, "Hey, now that you know all this stuff and, maybe you didn't know it coming in, feel free to, like, just say, 'Hey, this is not gonna work out, and we can just end the call right now and just part ways.'" And
Mhm.
you'd be surprised, Andy, I've had multiple people actually part ways at that moment.
I think it's the right way to do it. It's like in mature people should be able to recognize that in and of themselves. Is it
Absolutely.
a I don't wanna stop you because I think you're going down an interesting road, but let me at least since you talked about the hours one,
Mhm.
there's a lot of the 996. I'm a big believer that I would never hire somebody that's not thinking about my company at
Mhm.
all times and working and, like, pushing it, and I'm that way in everything I do.
Yeah.
But, I've got little kids, and so is it a how do you think about the hours and the insight and then maybe also the other question is, have you done the 5 days a week in office? How are you guys thinking about that? Like, my observation is you can find passionate, intense people, but they may not always be able to fit into the office part of it. So how do you think about
No.
that?
Yeah, I mean, completely aligned there, right? Like, first of all, we don't care about hours at Hyperbound. Obviously, like in that interview, like I do mention that because I think it's worth mentioning, as like hey, there are demanding weeks. Like it's good to know, coming in that there might be some demanding weeks, and that's a product of just where we're at as a company, how fast we're growing, some of the product. But, none of us here, we're not tracking hours, right? In fact, I don't even care what time you come into the office, or I don't care if you can't come 5 days a week into the office. It is like a requirement stated on every stated on every job post that we make, but, I don't have, like, a tracker every day where I'm like, "Oh, did this person come in?" For me, the thing is, are you able to complete and deliver on time?
Yes.
That is the most important thing, and also the quality, right? It's not just like how fast you can do, but is it of the highest quality when it is submitted? And if it's not of the highest quality, can you point that out? Are you aware of that? Can you be honest about it? I've had people that will submit subpar work and then we'll make up an excuse versus, hey, just say, hey, you're busy. You had things going on. You had personal things. You had family things, and that's totally fine. And we'll give you more time, or we'll figure out how to work around it, right? So, I think at the end of the day, it's hours doesn't really matter. I'd rather have someone that can complete a task in 30 minutes than take 3 hours to do the same thing. So hours don't really matter, especially in this AI world where you can do things so much faster with AI. I don't think hours matter at all.
I agree. I've been thinking a lot about these case studies that people send to have people take home, right?
Mhm.
The you could give somebody a study or a work, and if you're amazing with AI and you know your
Yeah.
stuff, you could do it in an hour, or you could spend 40 hours and you could show up and present, and you could look fairly similar. And so I'm a bigger and bigger fan of timed things. It sounds like, if I'm reading it correctly, hours are an initial proxy, but very quickly it turns into, are you world class? Are you pushing us forward? Are you pushing the business? Is that how you look at it too? Which is
Well,
maybe,
you
yeah.
know what's interesting, Andy? The best candidates, when I say that in the interview, they respond by saying, Uh, they respond by telling me like, "Hey, the hours don't matter." They actually tell me that themselves. They're like, "Look, I can guarantee you this. I will get whatever you need me to get done on time at the highest quality. And whether that takes me 3 hours or that takes me 1 hour, it doesn't matter. I'll get it done for you." That's all I need to hear. You know, I'm not looking for a candidate to say, "Hey, look, I'm gonna work 70 hours for you if that's what it requires." Like, you don't need to. Like, that's not what I'm looking for, nor can I even track that or care about tracking that.
How do you think? I mean, you're CEO, you've got a co-founder, but you get to a certain size. How do you think about junior people that don't necessarily know what to do and having to tell people to do it versus getting people like, "No, no, no, I know what I need to do now, I need to go do it." Like, how do you
Yeah.
assess for that side of things?
No, it's a great question. It's definitely something we've ran into multiple times
Yeah.
throughout Hyperbound, and even at the previous company I used to work at, we hired a couple junior folks who needed a lot of direction in the early days. I think this. I'll give it to you from the founder lens, right? I think um, before you can give someone a job, you need to be able to do the job yourself. That way you kind of have the playbook already made, and now you're just handing that off. So for every role that we hire for at Hyperbound, Otto and I both make sure that one of us have done it before. We have an idea of how it's done, what's been successful, and then we hand that off to the person we hire. And so it doesn't matter whether they're junior or senior, like they kind of have like a basic playbook to go off of. Now, Andy, you might say, hey, that playbook's not going to be the same forever, right? At some point, it's going to change, it's going to evolve. And absolutely, that's when we need a creative thinker, because we're trying to build a generational company here. I'm not trying to look for someone that's just going to take playbook from previous companies in the last like 5 years and implement it here. I think there is a time and place for that. Maybe 2 to 3 years from now, we'll need someone like that to come in and really like grow this thing to the moon
But the danger there too is that the person comes in with an overzealous playbook, and
for
it
sure.
slows all the execution down on what you guys are trying to do.
Yeah, and but it starts with leadership, is what I'm saying, right? At the end of the day, like, even if we did hire someone like that, I think they're gonna look to Atul and myself, to kind of, uh, decide which direction we want to go in, right? Do we want to just go implement the same exact playbook as before, or are we gonna change things up, make things more spicy, target the market in a different way than no other company might be? So,
You guys have been I've been really impressed at how fast you're shipping features, right? Like, you guys, it's like, yes, there's the people like a gong nipping on your heels, but it seems like every time I turn around, every time I get a demo, Hyperbound is releasing stuff that nobody else is doing yet, and I've been really impressed with that. How do you think about, like, speed of execution? Is it the small team that gives you that ability? Is it, because at some point as you grow bigger, you could lose that. I'm curious, how do you think about the speed of execution?
Yeah. Um, Speed of execution is personally my number one most important thing, more than anything else. You've definitely heard the, move fast, break things ideology. I think I very much live by that. I think speed is more important than trying to deliver the most perfect experience possible. And I do catch myself sometimes too making the mistake of trying to be perfect. At the end of the day, I am a perfectionist myself, and so I tend to spend extra hours trying to correct every small thing. But sometimes, yeah, it's the expectations you have for the final output doesn't actually align always with the end customer. So you don't have to be so hard on yourself, is what I've learned. Like people are okay with the beta. It's not the end of
Yeah.
the world, you know? And so that's I think that's the mentality we carry forward, right? So even when we do our specs for a product, right? We always have like a phase 0, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, right? Like we're never trying to do it all at once. As and our goal is, can we ship something every single week? Even better, can we ship something every single day? That's the dream, right? So if we can keep doing that, we're confident that the product's just going to get better over time, in a short period of time.
I like that. How is, how do you think about if you have a role and you need to hire for it? Like, what is your strategy? Are you working with your investors? Are you hiring recruiters? Are you just hiring yourself? Like, how do you go about
Yeah, fantastic. This is definitely something that we've evolved a lot over the last 2.5 years. In the early days, Andy, it's just about asking your network, for introductions, investors, of course, advisors, of course, friends you meet along the way. You go to these conferences and you meet people that are looking for jobs, and you get a couple interviews through that. And then over time, like, we've had relied very heavily on LinkedIn.
it?
My co-founder and I have a very strong presence on LinkedIn. We do a lot of thought leadership, and so anytime we make a hiring post, tends to attract a lot of inbound.
Mhm.
Now the difficulty there is just sorting through that inbound, sorting through the noise, finding the people that actually do really want to work here. But not surprisingly, the best candidates we've gotten have come through inbound, right? They just DM us on LinkedIn, or they emailed us 10 times until they got our attention. That's how like these people are gonna be willing to put the work in, so you
Mhm.
can at least give them the interview. Other things we've done, it's interesting. We recently hired this truck with a big LED screen on the side, and it was for hiring engineers. And we had it drive around all of San Francisco for an entire month,
Wow.
and just to get engineers to apply. And there's one of the screens on the truck. It had a coding problem, and if someone could solve it, we basically gave them an interview. We're like, hey, solve this, scan this QR code, and sign up, and we'll give you an interview. So that was a pretty cool one too, that attracted a lot of engineers for us.
I'd be curious, with Claude Code and everything like that right now, you still need engineers? I mean, obviously, I not that I'm doubting that, but I mean, you and your co-founder are great engineers, and so at some point, there's
Yeah.
this balance. I mean, I faced it in my last startup, right? Which is, if I remember, I was like, "Great, you hired CTO." I was like, "Let's get a team and move as fast as we can." But every engineer you add adds complexity and adds, like, more releases and more QA, and so I'm curious, like, I could see a scenario where, like, no, like, it's my co-founder and I guess you're out there now in the world, but, like, I guess I feel like AI could allow you to hire a much higher quality, smaller team and ship even faster. I'm curious how you think about that.
Um. Well, now it's getting juicy, right?
Yeah.
It's no, it's funny. Like I mentioned, for the longest time, we actually had a much smaller engineering team for where we were at as a company.
Yes.
We had, I think, 4 engineers for basically an entire year of the company. And then we hired a couple more. We went to like 6 or 7. We stayed there for almost 6 months. And then now recently, just in the last like 3 to 4 months, we've basically doubled that. So now we have almost 13, I believe,
Wow.
engineers now. Yeah. And so, the point is like for the longest time, we were able to get by with fewer engineers. So you're probably wondering, like, so suddenly, why are you hiring so many engineers now? Honestly, Andy, it's because I think the market we're going after, right? We're
Yeah.
going after large enterprise, and large enterprise, it's not like you can just build one feature and it applies to everyone. You kind
Mhm.
of need to do a lot of custom work. There's a lot of customer support. There's like custom onboarding things, right? There's always like issues that are very specific to a certain enterprise system. And so a lot of our engineers are actually very customer facing. They're almost like forward deployed engineers.
Yep.
They're going in, they're talking with the customers, they're dissecting what's wrong, and they're building like custom solutions whenever a customer needs it. So that's actually what they're spending most of their time on. The day to day, like building a quick feature into the product that applies to everyone. I think that's gotten much easier now. And thanks to AI for sure and Cloud Code, it is much faster. I think one of the things that engineers also get to do now is work in parallel, right?
Mhm.
You can be building 10 different features at the same time now, on 10 different branches and just having Claude Code on each session. And so you're absolutely right. But I will say there is still a lot of business context required. And Claude Code, as good as it is today, it still requires a lot of spoon feeding. And I wouldn't say it's as easy as putting in a prompt and it just understands everything, especially as the code base gets complex.
That's true. How have you thought about CS, right? Like rapidly growing company, 3 years old. They always say you start to see your first churns in year 3, right? Because they've tried it, they've done it, whatever. I mean, you guys seem to be constantly innovating on new features, but have you invested deeply in the post-sale side yet? Or do you think more about like, no, let's get our engineers engaged in these people early? Like, how do you think about that?
So we were actually a bit late to the game
Yeah.
initially. We For the longest time we did rely on our engineers, and that's a byproduct of my co-founder and I. We thought, well, if we can do it, our engineers should be able to do it, and they were because of the people we hired. But there does come a point where you need people to kind of focus on their lane and focus on what they're good at. Like we can't have the engineers just sitting on hours of customer calls every week. Like
True.
every now and then if you need to, that's fine. But so we did have to divide it eventually. So now we actually do have a dedicated post sales team,
Mhm.
and they're essentially account managers that also act as customer success managers as well. So they're onboarding the customer, they're managing the customer day to day, and then they're also, renewing and upselling the customer over the period of the account. And then so we did a little bit differently. Instead of hiring CSMs separately, we actually hired solutions engineers. So these are
Yep.
true forward deployed engineers essentially who assist the account manager. So every account manager is paired to their own solutions engineer,
Mhm.
and they both work together on the account. And if it's a larger account, then we assign, one or two more solutions engineers just so they have extra support.
That's the what is the technical requirements to be a solution engineer, right? Like you and I spent some time, like I'm coding stuff up. Like if I was 25 years younger, could I be a solution engineer or is it like a software engineer? Like what's the profile of people you need?
It's a good question. So I think this is going to be a boring answer, but I think you just need someone that's interested in the technical stuff.
Yes.
That's basically and obviously has the ability to be customer facing, right? And you can usually tell that within the first few conversations during the hiring process. Like, is this someone that, if I was a customer, would I want to talk to this person every day? You can kind of feel that as you talk to them. And then it's the question of, is this person technical? Like, are they willing to dive into the product and actually understand how everything works? Are they asking the hard questions, right? Are they able to dig into the things that are missing? So we need someone that like is very detail oriented for this role. So for example, one of our solutions engineers, he's a former engineer, a software engineer that realized He doesn't like spending all his time coding. He actually really enjoys the customer facing side. So he decided to come in and be a solutions engineer. We have another one, another person who's actually never coded before, but she used to work at the Apple Genius Bar, and she was a very technical person there, right, talking about iPhones, the specs, the laptops, right, and she was very interested in how every part of our product worked, and we gave her a sandbox instance during the hiring process of Hyperbound.
Yeah.
She went in, she used every single feature in the product, and they came back with a massive list of questions on, oh, why did you guys do this way, or why didn't you consider this, and we're just like, okay, this person really cares and very detail oriented. So
Anybody that's passionate on a company should be doing that, and I love it, right? It's like, if you get the chance to interview at a company that's growing and they hand you something like the product, people should. I think a lot of times people are so, like, looking at so many and they just don't get a chance to go deep. Maybe that tees up the thing of, like, how do you use you guys build AI role plays, which is the ability for reps to practice before they go talk and learn, and it's amazing to me, right? Because instead of a manager saying, "Hey, maybe you need to improve this," now the AI can start to do that. I'm excited by where you guys are going with the product. But how do you use your product in the interview process itself? Like, do you use that?
yeah. Yep. We definitely do use it during our own interview process. And for the audience, for those of you that haven't tried an AI role play, the idea is the AI can be coded into any persona essentially. So if you target a VP of sales, you can build a VP of sales AI role play and have your reps practice selling to this bot. Now, for the longest time, the use case that we've been focused on is like coaching and onboarding and helping, new hires ramp faster, things like that. But, a natural use case that's popped up is just hiring, right? So to send it out to candidates who are in the pipeline, particularly for the go-to-market roles, so sales roles and BDR roles, right? And, we've been using it heavily. So every candidate that applies to be an AE at Hyperbound or applies to be a BDR at Hyperbound, they have to go through a Hyperbound AI role play. And for the AEs, we have them do a discovery call,
Mhm.
and so they gotta show off their discovery skills, right? And then there's a scorecard that scores them on how well they did on the role play. And then it gives them some coaching feedback. And this part is very important because we look for reps that take that coaching feedback, redo the role play, and see if they've actually learned something, if they're coachable, right? So it's almost like a coding test for engineers, but now it's like a sales test, And for the BDRs, we actually have them do cold call role plays just to see how they think on the feet, with a bot that can throw difficult objections on the fly that they're not expecting, and we see how they react, their tone, all those kinds of things.
I like that. It is powerful if you've been able to engage them. Maybe a question that you and I have talked a lot about is the buy versus build, right? Like, I'm sure a lot of people are saying, well, like, I can just go Claude code up a role play for myself or whatever it is. Like, how would you differentiate what you guys have built in terms of a platform versus somebody just chatting with Claude, dumping in the job description, dumping in their resume and saying, "Hey, give me a practice version of this." I'm curious what's different, and I'm sure it's also, like, at the enterprise, it becomes a lot different, but
Yeah.
how do you help people understand, like, where you guys are pushing the bounds on these things?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, like, I think when you think about the experience for a candidate applying to your job, it's whatever they experience during those first few calls or those first few moments, it basically defines what they think of you and your company, right? And so, if the role play, especially if you use the role play as a screener, which is what a lot of companies will do because that's where it has the most impact, right? Like the whole idea is you have a candidate pool of 1,000 people. How do we bring that down to 200? Right? So the problem is like as soon as you have a bad role play, what do I mean by bad? It's not realistic or it feels, or halfway through the role play, the bot just says something that throws the candidate off, or an objection doesn't really quite make sense. It doesn't fit in that moment, right? Or one of the talk tracks that the bot goes down, it's just not something that a real human would ever say. As soon as any one of those things happen, candidate checks out and
Yep.
they start doubting whether you actually know how to interview people, you know? And other candidates will also feel like they didn't get a fair chance. Like, hey, this wasn't my fault that the bot said this, and it kind of threw me off. So it's just that if you want to have a first good impression, I think it is worth investing time, money, engineering effort, whatever it is, into getting the perfect role play. And also, it's like the integration into your systems too, right? Like you don't want this to be like a standalone thing that you have to track. And even the scorecarding, very tough. Like you're gonna have candidates that will say, "Oh, I did that, but I didn't get scored for it or missed it." Right? We've spent a lot of time at Hyperbound getting that scorecard to be as accurate as possible, so it reduces the amount of back and forth between the end user. So yeah, I mean, I'll say like I think the biggest thing is it comes down to quality. It comes down to having the perfect first impression, and it comes down
Mhm.
to integrations. These are the top 3 things, and especially at the enterprise level, Andy. This is not a product that people are like, "I'm gonna go spend engineering effort building this." If I can just plug and play, because I have candidates already sitting in my pipeline right now that I would love to pare down. So that's where we're
I l
coming from.
I like that. I mean, I always ask vendors when I speak with them, "Hey, I get that the tech is there, right? And increasingly, I can probably cut the tech, but, like, what I care about is will my reps adopt?" And I think that's a really hard problem for people to solve, right? That you've spent a lot of time thinking through, not just what the role play looks like, but also, like, what's the UX? How are you engaging
Oh,
people?
yeah. 100%.
And how are you the big thing I'm also seeing now is just, cross memory across different areas, and so I'm imagining it's you guys have done a great job on that. Um, do you evaluate for AI fluency, or do you focus more on just the drive and assume AI fluency is there?
Yeah. That's a fantastic question. So one of the things we do is we, for the more technical candidates, like the solution engineers, like I said, we do just throw them into the product. We actually have them go in, build a couple role plays themselves, do some prompting, talk with our AI agent. So, you can kind of assess some of the AI fluency through that process. And for other roles, we give them tough problems, right? Every role we have like a take home assessment,
Mhm. Yep.
and I tell the candidates up front, I'm like, "Hey, look, I know you're gonna use Claude or ChatGPT, and if you aren't, then you probably should be. You can go ahead and use those things, but I'm gonna ask you questions, and I'm gonna dig deep into each one of these things. I want to understand why you made the decisions you made at the end of the day, and you can tell between candidates that did a really good job of prompting versus not as well. Sometimes we'll get these like assessments that are fully filled out, but you can tell it's all just AI slop. And
Yeah.
you're like, "Hey, come on, even if you were like a little bit more AI savvy, like you would do a better job of trying to, format this so we couldn't even tell." Some of the best candidates, they do it in such a way that you can't even tell that they used AI for it. And honestly, I'm okay with that. You know, I think that that shows character.
I'm the same, right? If you are not using I mean, I think for me, if I'm hiring somebody right now, I need them to always think, "How can I solve this problem with AI?" and faster and creatively, because it's like the number of times when you see something you and the old me would have, like, spent 20 hours doing it. Now the new me is like, "Oh, just throw
Absolutely.
it in here and you'll be amazed at what it can do for you." Um, but I guess the question is that, like, what is one of your assessments look like? Is
Yeah.
it is it a verbal version, and then we need you to do it? Like, give me maybe just pick one on a go-to-market role, and like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I'll give you 1 or 2 examples, right? So, for example, let's take the, AE role for us, right? AEs, what we're testing for a couple different things, right? We're testing for grit, we're testing for coachability, we're testing for attention to detail,
Yep,
we're testing for um, technical skills. Like, how well do you, by technical skills, it's like, how well can you actually break down a call? Do you
yep,
understand every point of that call? Are you socially aware to the point where you understand why a buyer reacted the way they did? Those types of things, right? And also like a reality check, right? We always put this in. What do I mean by reality check? It's like, all right, here's the discovery call. Go listen to this discovery call now. come up with an account plan. Let's say you had this account tomorrow. You took this discovery call. Tell me what the timeline would be. What would happen in every week or every month? Break it down for me, and we'll have some reps come in and say, "Hey, based on that discovery call, I think this deal is going to close probably in a month." And guess what? That deal it takes us nearly 6 months, right? And a good rep, who has experience and can break down that discovery call can tell you that. They
Mhm.
will come back and say, "Hey, yeah, this is not gonna be a one-month deal. This is gonna take 6 months, and here's exactly why, and here's exactly what's gonna happen every month, and here's my account plan." Right? And we don't want just someone that just throws this thing into AI and builds that whole account plan. Even if they did build, like, a draft of it, we want them to back it up, like, why? All they get is one discovery call to look at, so
And you're handing them a real call, right?
yeah, a real call that we've done so that they can actually, research who the buyer is, the account, the prospect that we're talking to, all of it.
I love it. When I interviewed my head of enablement at Carta, I gave them, I think it was like 10 real calls. And I knew what the problems with the sales team that I needed to fix were. And they came back with like really thoughtful analysis and all of that. So I like the idea of giving somebody a real call. That's a good idea.
Right, and especially, like, that one call too, like, there's many moments that we want them to catch, and, we'll look out and see if they have the level of business acumen or executive acumen to actually catch those moments, and it's very interesting to see how different where different candidates fall on that spectrum.
Maybe as we wrap, I'd love to get your take on the future of managers in this world, right? You and I have talked a lot about where your product is today and what it's starting to drive in terms of behavior, which is a rep can show up and it can use all of the different interactions they've had and all the different calls to be able to say, "Hey, here's what we should train you on next." And I feel like you're starting to push the bounds versus any company I've seen so far in terms of the potential to reinvent the call it the sales managers first, but potentially every role over time. Like, how do you think this looks in a couple of years? Does the manager role change? How do you think about that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's everyone's so focused on reps and AI SDRs and building AI. Now, I'm hearing things about like building an AI sales engineer and building an
Mhm.
AI AE. It's crazy some of the conversations that I'm hearing out there, but I haven't heard anyone talk about the AI sales manager, which is
Yeah.
which is interesting to me, because I think in many ways, a lot of what AI is automating today are the day-to-day repetitive tasks that managers are doing, right? Like, for example, let's take role play, right? Like role play is one of those things where every manager has role played with their reps in the past, right? Some maybe are doing it a lot more than others, which is fine, but everyone knows that when it is done, it does have an impact, right? Practice makes perfect. And so AI has already kind of taken that off of the manager's plate. And next thing managers are doing is listening to calls and
Yeah.
coaching, right? That's also being taken off their plate now, right?
Not
Next thing
only
you
is it being
know,
taken off, but it should be taken off because
it should be taken.
managers
They
will
just don't
listen
have
to
the
a
ability.
yeah, I mean, the AI has the ability to listen to every call, whereas the
Exactly.
managers are gonna listen to a piece of a single call, maybe a couple snippets, maybe just one call in depth, but it seems like the opportunity there to just say, "Managers, you no longer need to listen to calls for every rep all the time," seems just amazing potentially.
Yeah, it's just unrealistic to expect a human to do that. And but AI is listening to every call. That's the promise of AI. It can ingest more data than any human ever could. Right, and then I'd say the next thing too is, like, hiring, right? Like, that does take up a manager's time as well, but now we just talked about that as well. That's something that's also being taken off their plate. And then, I'd say, the other thing too is, like, managers spend a lot of time reporting, building out the forecast, right? Making sure it's accurate, and intervening in deals. Now, these are all things that AI is also starting to automate. They're starting to do the forecast, right? They're starting to build out these reports automatically and bubbling them up to leadership. The companies that are building these AI sales engineers, they're able to intervene at the right time and come in and answer specific questions that a rep might not be able to answer. So it's very interesting where all this is heading. Like, managers finally get the ability to become what I call super managers. Like, why manage 8 reps when you can manage 15 or 20 or 30? And have AI be kind of your best friend, helping you prioritize the reps that matter, prioritize the deals that matter. So I do think there's a world where that manager to rep ratio starts to go from, 1 to 8, which I believe is the industry average right now, to, 1 to 20, 1 to 30, and more. So
Then I feel like the role of manager becomes the person that's gonna push your thinking, the person that's gonna help you think out of the box, like, take the walk, understand why this account isn't closing. It becomes like a sounding board rather than a coach, manager, onboarding, training, all of this
100%.
stuff.
Well, at the end of the day, they're people. They have to be people leaders, right? You're managing people, and I think more than the nitty gritty of every deal, it's about how do you motivate that person to be the best version of themselves every single day. And I think that often gets lost in all the mix. You have so many things going on, and you don't really have the time to be the best people leader, which I think is underrated right now.
It's kind of an inspiring vision. I think also the number of times when I've seen a high performing rep get promoted to be a sales manager, but they don't have great enablement. They don't have all the support infrastructure around them and they flail and they struggle, right? But now I feel like not only can, I mean, the list that you had of things that managers do that can get automated is powerful, but also they can now have the support around them to be a better manager too.
100%. Another thing that people don't talk about enough is I've talked to a lot of managers spending time on lead routing and incentive management and quota setting, right? Like managing territories and honestly, like as we get into this world of AI taking over things, like I think that AI has the ability to start routing leads as well, has the ability to manage incentives by looking at every data point, understanding where different reps are doing better than others. Like, I think, yeah, this is like a very amazing moment for managers who just want to be people leaders and lead a team rather than worrying about every tiny detail that's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder, do you need to have sales instincts, or could that 20-person manager person be much more of just just a really good people person as well too? It's an interesting balance because I feel like you still need to have your sales managers know how to like get in on deals, get in front of it, be there. So I think it'll raise the bar for managers, but it'll make the best managers even more valuable as well too.
100%. 100%.
This was an amazing conversation, both hearing how you grew from a YC two-person startup to Series A and changing the world of enablement to also understanding your vision for the future. So thank you, Sai, for the time.
Thank you so much, Andy. Appreciate it.
Great combo.